killer who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight.
Keep your babies close to you. There's someone out there.
What's up, Mob Crew? I'm Chris, and today's missing person case is Don. Also, today's person of interest is Olivia. Today's missing person case is today's missing person case is Corey.
What's going on there, man? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please, Wayne.
What's up, Mob Crew? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. Yeah, there you go. That's better. If you guys can hear me, please put a 1 in the chat. So I'm using StreamYard today. Adjust my mic a little bit. How's everybody doing tonight? We've got a special guest, Steve from True Crime Web, joining us. We're going to be talking about the Idaho students. But before we get started, I always like to feature the missing. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Here we go. Thanks everyone for putting a 1 in the chat. Let's see here. All right. So for today's missing, we got Evan Cockerham. He was last seen on December 6th. Sorry, it's kind of fuzzy. Says Evan was traveling through California in his white 1990 Plymouth Caravan with wood paneling. Evan was somewhere around downtown LA looking for a yoga center that he was interested in volunteering at. He was carjacked and held captive. Several days later, he was able to get away, but he had no phone, money, or belongings. He then ended up walking to the Peninsula Center Library in Rolling Hills area of Los Angeles, where he was able to use his phone for a short time to call his family. He seemed shook up during the conversation and talked about decompressing on the beach. Also mentioned finding a meditation center. Sorry, it's a little fuzzy. Evan stated that he would call his family back later, but he never did. Oh my gosh. That is absolutely terrible. So he gets carjacked. He luckily he's okay from that, but then he's able to call his family. He says he's going to go, to this meditation center, look for one, and hang out on the beach. And then that's the last time they heard from him. So that was on December 6th. That's in Rolling Hills, California. He is just 21 years old. He's got sandy blonde hair, blue eyes, 6 foot tall. So he's a tall kid. Should kind of stick out. So if you have any information, please call 310-539-1661. And we've got one more who I've been featuring a lot lately. This is Carly Peyton Jackson. She is 14 years old, just 5'4", brown hair, hazel eyes. She was last seen on the 9th of this month. Last seen around South 16th Street and East St. Catherine Avenue. She is in need of medical attention because she doesn't have her medication, and she was last seen somewhere in Phoenix, Arizona. So if you have any information, please call 602-534-2121. Okay. Yeah, so I guess there's a big storm warning, minus 26, minus 52 with wind chill. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is cold. I don't want any of that. It's cold here, but we don't have the wind chill, so I'm glad we don't have that at the moment. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my co-host for today. If I can find him here. Here we go. Hey, Steve, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
Good. As always, an honor to have you. For those that are new to your channel, would you like to just kind of give a little bit about your background, buddy?
Sure. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, 20 years. Started on in the jail, worked road and went into investigations, had all different types of training, became a state certified crime scene technician, worked cases from simple thefts all the way up to homicides.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And then after retirement, here you are back at it again, trying to make a difference. That's so awesome.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, it's amazing. And he's got a lot of stuff. We're gonna try to collab. Right now it's winter and kind of got me grounded. But I think when spring comes, hopefully it comes sooner than later. Although we do need this winter. But yeah, once spring comes, we've got some plans set up, especially to go hopefully finish Dylan rounds on my end, and you've got some things on the east side that we're working with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, just give me a second, guys. I'm going to try to clear some of this out. When I have guests on, I use StreamYard. And I normally use OBS, so I'm a lot more familiar with that. And so it always takes me a minute to kind of get my bearings when I'm using StreamYard. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Yes, I was on Banfield last night. It was really cool. It was kind of last minute. They saw one of my live shows that I had on Monday where I was just kind of pointing out that there's cars driving by during the time that those officers are out there, and there's one car in particular that just happens to be driving by at a certain time. We'll go ahead and look at that at some point at today's show. It's just 4 minutes. It's a short program, but I'll give some context to it and everything. But before we get to that point, we'll kind of just rehash the timeline, and we'll go from there.
You're my wife's newest, greatest TV personality that she's bragging on. So she's a great fan.
Yeah, she is. She is so wonderful. It was really cool. It was an honor. And I'll be honest, I was super nervous. I was freaking out. That 6 hours leading up to the show, I was a nervous wreck. So. All right, so let's just go over just a basic timeline for those. I'm pretty sure most of you guys know of the Idaho students, but we'll just kind of quickly start with the timeline, and then we'll kind of get into some of the latest details. But so we have 4 students. We have Kaylee and Maddie here on the left, and they were doing their thing at a corner club. From 10 to 1:30, and then they're seen leaving at 1:30, and they kind of walk to this grub truck, which is about 3 blocks down. It takes about an average 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how fast you're walking, to get to this grub truck. And then they're there. There is also a kid following them, a hoodie guy, as we call him. Some people think it is. They figured out who this guy is, but I'm not going to mention his name because we try not to do that on this channel because a lot of times with these cases, a lot of people get thrown under the bus, and there's only maybe one killer, maybe two, and it just happens over and over again with these cases that people get harassed and everything, and I just don't want to be a part of that. I love to speculate, but we tried to avoid that, but we still have a lot of fun, and we try to involve everybody as well, and we got some things that we'll be doing. So anyway, go back to the timeline. So we have the girls after they order some food at the grub truck, which is at 1:40. They leave about 1:45. I think they arrive back home. They do get a ride by what a witness says is what looked like a black luxury SUV. And so then they end up getting home about 1:50, just before 2 a.m. at their residence at 1122 King Road. And then you have Ethan and Xana, who are a couple. They attended a party. Here on the timeline, it says it's from 10 to 11, but it says that they were home by 1:45 as well. So, and then we also have two surviving roommates that were on the first floor, and apparently they were home as well. And we're going to watch a video. It's Dr. Phil. I don't know. Maybe there's some fans of Dr. Phil. The reason I'm going to play this is it's kind of interesting. They talk about where each couple is they kind of talk about the floor plan, which I think is kind of interesting. So I thought we'd look at that. They also have some experts that kind of break down some interesting thoughts, and I thought I'd kind of pause it and get your thoughts on it, Steve. So we'll go ahead and watch that. So let's see, make sure I've got the right one loaded up here. Should be this one. Give me a second. Oh, I guess it didn't load up right. That's weird. Okay, give me a second. We'll load it in. That's weird. I've never had that happen before.
Tack was a target.
There we go. Wow, that's weird. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and play this.
On the house or the students. Kaylee's father believes the killer did target his daughter and her friends coming in through the second floor sliding glass door. Now, either way, the families are demanding answers. But as of now, this whole thing remains a mystery. Dr. Casey, let me get some details here and start by looking at the bedrooms where these victims were found. It's very likely that they came in the sliding door. And that's the one that you can walk up to, right? You can just walk up on the grass.
So the back of the house is ground floor, is the second floor. And there's two possible points of entry there. There's a slider and a window, and there's a cinder block under a window.
Okay, this is loud as it go. You can hear it okay, Steve?
Yes.
I did crank it up when I was recording it, so I hope everybody can hear it in the chat. It's not very long, and we're going to kind of play a little bit, pause it, talk about it, play a little bit, talk about it, and then I've got some really interesting things afterwards as well.
Which are very close, and they're going into the kitchen.
Okay.
Now, Xana and her boyfriend, Ethan, were on the second floor there.
This is the patio ground access where someone could walk up.
Yeah.
And this is a sliding door.
And there's a window near there, too.
And there was a window near there as well. And who was on this floor and in which bedroom?
So that was Xana and Ethan, and they were a couple, and I believe they were bedroom D.
Maddie and Kaylee were on the third floor. They were in which bedroom?
So they were in bedroom E, which was Maddie's bedroom.
Okay, they were over
Kaylee's
here.
bedroom was bedroom F, but Kaylee had moved out because she was graduating in December. So she was just back visiting for the weekend, had brought her dog with her, and her best friend from growing up was her roommate, Maddie. So they were sleeping in the same bed in room E, Maddie.
So what do you think about that? I think that's interesting. I think we've kind of known about that. I've heard some rumors, and you never know what is factual when cases like this, because there's just so much misinformation or it's kind of half truths, but she sounds pretty confident, and I've heard a lot of stuff that sounds like that was the case, that Kaylee was pretty much, 'cause she was going to be moving to Texas. So it sounds like her bedroom was pretty much empty and she was just there. This was kind of like a last hurrah with the friends. And then, she's going to be going to Texas. She's going to graduate and then go to Texas.
Yes. Regardless of if they were already asleep or even if they were sleeping together, if they got into the same room, regardless of the point, they were found in those areas. And so the story of why they're there, who knows? There's some speculation. Could you run into the room to wake your friend to warn them? I mean, there's so many different possibilities. We don't know what the crime scene looked like inside yet, but and at some point we will.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and I'm going to go snag my cat because my cat found a crinkly bag and it's driving me nuts.
Room.
Then the third couple was in the basement on the first floor.
Mm-hmm. The roommates. Yeah, the two roommates. And so there were 2 empty bedrooms in the house.
Okay. The whole point is these guys say they didn't hear anything. It was a Rambo knife.
Right.
And so this is something that you see in video games. It's something you see in movies because it's a very macho looking knife. So
it's also in shadow boxes and sold. It's one of the cheaper end knives. So you don't have to be, a lot of these knives are $200 or more for a really top quality knife. This is a cheaper knife.
Yeah.
So somebody that doesn't have a big bank account would probably order this. Would also lead me to believe it's a younger individual. Somebody just doesn't have a lot of money.
A real
So what do you think about that?
It's all pure speculations. Everybody has an opinion.
Sure.
Is it true? Could be. And what the injuries are and what type of weapon, strong weapon gouges and all the other stuff that's been spoken about by the coroner. All that's going to play in at some point, but do we know exactly what kind? No, not yet.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep playing because they make a really good, interesting point about how you can kind of tell which victim was attacked first. And well, I'm not going to give it away, but it's good to see it. No, thanks, Investigates. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, buddy. I'll get back to you and let you know if I can make it Saturday.
Professional would not use that knife.
So we're issued a K-bar knife. I don't know about currently, but when I was in, we were issued that knife. And when everybody got out of training, everybody in my platoon immediately went and bought other kinds of knives because it's a thick knife. It doesn't hold an edge well, and the tip is prone to breaking off.
And there's also a guard in a frenzied attack. That's very likely to injure the one doing the stabbing if it's in a frenzied knife, which is likely to leave DNA from that individual.
Correct. And again, when you're using that on 4 individuals, let's not look at them as people. Let's look at them as the objects that were being bluntly hit with this knife. You're talking about bone, cartilage, things that will dull a knife very quickly. So you would probably see a progression of smaller and smaller wounds, or not as deep, or the penetration just wouldn't be as good, and it would become a more physical attack from the very first start.
Well, the one thing, Jonathan.
So what do you think about that? Would a knife dull that fast? I mean, unless you're just at bone. I mean, you're shaking your head. I got to hear what your thoughts on this.
Like I said, everybody has an opinion.
Sure.
And I have no idea what he's talking about. The victims I've seen and that have died from knife injuries. Now, granted, it wasn't multiple, but I've seen, single individuals that received multiple stab wounds. And the knife was still a weapon even after their death. And could still uphold. And when you're talking about a heavy bladed, as long as the tip isn't broke off. Now, if they're speculating that the tip was broke off at some point, then I can agree that you would have shallower injuries because you don't have that pointed tip. but is it, that's just pure speculation on his part right now.
Sure. Okay, but there is one thing. I don't know if it's this guy or if it's this guy actually right here, but they bring up a very interesting point about how you can kind of know who's the first victim.
Now, I'd spoken about relative to this type of knife. Guess what it comes with? It comes with a sheath. And everybody's saying, we don't know, the knife isn't there. I think my question is, did he drop the sheath at the scene? Was that left behind? Do they have that clue to go on?
But in terms of looking at this from forensic standpoint, we do know if 4 people are stabbed in rapid succession, the one that's stabbed first is going to have the most wounds and the deeper wounds.
Right.
And we know that you'll know that that's the person stabbed first because they
Oh, maybe it's going to be Dr. Phil that actually brings up a very interesting point out of all of them. Okay, so I think this is the part.
won't have any of the other 3's DNA on them.
You're absolutely
Correct.
right, Dr. Phil. So
Correct.
there'll be the least amount of transfer DNA from that individual. Just imagine we've got A, B, C, and D. So for the first victim, once they are stabbed, and as Jonathan pointed out, it would be you would have significance there because the individual would still be full of vim and vigor at that point. But from a DNA perspective, as you move to victim B, you're taking DNA from A and then essentially inoculating that individual with A's DNA and so forth and so on, until by the time you get to D, there is a high probability that you're going to have this succession all the way along where they will contain DNA perhaps of everybody involved in this case.
They think they're
Okay, so I stopped it there because I don't want to play too much Dr. Phil because I'm sure I'll probably get a notice from him. So, but yeah, what he was explaining is basically kind of a way to tell who was victim 1 to victim 4 in order is that, victim 4 is going to probably, if it's the same kind of knife attack, that they're going to have a good chance there's going to be DNA from the other 3 victims. And you just kind of work your way backwards from there, or the other way around, as far as DNA mixed in from the other victims, correct?
Oh, that's one way. And then, of course, you'll have cast off that if you attack one victim first in a certain area, and you may have some type of cast off pattern across the other victim pre-injuries, or that victim is found laying on top of a blood trail that could only have come if that victim came there second. Say that you fought one victim and you were able to overcome them, and due to the blood trail and the cast off patterns, the second victim may be laying on top of that blood spatter and that blood pattern. And so you could tell from the different blood spatters and patterns within the room of what injuries occurred, when were, and did that second victim enter into the fight later after the first cast-offs. And I mean, knife fights are very dynamic. There's a lot of movement. And so I expect, as we were told early on, that it was that some of the victims had defensive wounds. And for you to have defensive wounds, you have to be moving and alert.
Right. And speaking of defensive wounds, we've got Tom. Thanks for your coverage. Chris and Steve just got in. Have you guys covered the defensive wounds? So we were just talking about just some ways that you can tell who was the first victim to the last victim, who went in what order, because there would be some mixed DNA in that. And then, we haven't really completely spoken about the defensive wounds, but if, say, the girls on the 3rd floor were the first 2 victims, and then maybe a scream or something alerted to Ethan and or Xana, and so one of them got up, and of course, from what we understand, Xana did have defensive wounds and did put up a fight. Could have been the one that may have heard the altercation and or scream or whatever it was, and But yeah, thank you so much for the $10, buddy. And I just wanted to address another thing I just saw real quick. Pamela, thank you so much. Chris, that was me who sent you an email a few hours ago. Okay. Thank you, Pamela. I just wanted to say one thing about my emails. I guess after you go on national TV or something, my emails, I mean, I get a lot of emails, but wow, so please be patient with me. I try to get back to everybody within a day or two, but boy, I'm gonna have to hire somebody. That's all I can say.
Good for you. Good for you, sir. You earned it. You deserve it. You have great critical thinking skills, and I enjoy being here with you.
I appreciate it. It's a team effort. I could be out here. I could be here without the community that supports me. So, thank you so much, Tom. Wow, Steve. Very, very good insight. Yeah, that's why we love to have him on the channel. And Steve also covers the same thing, true crime. And if you want to check out his channel, it's True Crime Web, and my mods will be kind of posting his link here and throughout the show. Okay, so now we're moving on to, this was recorded. This is interesting. This is during the episode, I think, that I was in after on Banfield last night. But this is some guys walking in, and I was going to get your input. We've seen this multiple times, but we'll just kind of watch this just a couple seconds here. But and you explained this, what was going on here with all the tape. That is basically kind of a sign-in type deal. So that's why there's so many different tapes on there. You explained that the last time you were here live with me, is that's kind of a way to tell who's been in the house on what day and everything. That way they can keep track of, the comings and goings of everybody coming in, correct?
And if they have multiple investigators saying that's going to be coming in on a certain day, they will break that seal when the first one gets there that day, and then they'll just keep a log of all personnel coming and going, rather than resealing it every exit. As long as you have an officer securing the scene that is maintaining that integrity and keeping that time log, then you don't have to seal it every time they walk in and out. But yes, they'll document it every night and keep that integrity.
Awesome. And S-Lot, thank you so much for becoming a member. I don't know why I can't highlight you right now. Oh, there you are. There you go. Thank you so much, S-Lot, for becoming a member and supporting the channel. You are so awesome. And we had somebody at the very beginning. I forget the name. I'll say it at the end. Go write it down. I know I thanked her at the beginning. Okay, so that is not what I wanted. This is any news on the car found in Eugene? Yes. And if anybody does not know what I'm talking about, I do have photos of that. I was going to get to that, but yes, they do have an update. It is nothing. It does not have to do with this case. And I will show the photos of that. But everybody was kind of wondering about that car that was found in Eugene, Oregon. But no, has nothing to do with the case. They officially came out with that last night, I believe. But thank you so much, Tom, for the $5, buddy. And I've got a special thank you for Tom, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. So this case here, basic forensic kit. Anything unique that stands out about this kit?
Well, I went through all the crime scene suppliers for all different types of equipment and cases, and there's a lot of different cases out there for certain things. It could be something for the photography. It could be a 3D scanner systems. It could be something as simple as lasers or some of the blood pattern string kits and laser systems they have. It could be an alternate light source. It could even be a crime scope. All these things are things that could be used at this crime scene. What it is, I have no idea in that specific case, because you can buy aftermarket cases that, when I order kits and I've got, I've got this kit here that,
looks just about, looks just kind of like it. It
And,
looks like your basic kind of like tackle box, but black.
And you can buy these things, and all the crime scene guys, of course, sometimes whatever kit you order, it comes with a neat protective, some type of system. But
So this is
I have no idea.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it could be any of or a mixture of those. But I would probably think it's something that, at this day and time, as far as being this far into the crime scene, that they're looking for additional, some type of blood evidence, blood pattern analysis, because if you have 4 victims and the extended time and fight times of multiple victims with defensive wounds, and they will know exactly. It's not hard to identify defensive wounds. They happen a lot. They're going to be those hand injuries where you're grabbing that knife, forearms, shoulders, elbows. Those are where those defensive wounds are going to be coming in.
So basically, because you're
Yes.
you're blocking. These are your arms. This is what you're talking about. Yeah.
And those are, it's easy to identify who was awake at during what time. And you'll look at those in those areas where you have those defensive wounds. Not only will their hands be bagged because they may have the possibility of having that key DNA profile of the attacker, but it's during those defensive wounds and those encounters of when the offender will hurt himself or cut himself, or you will bust a nose, you'll bite, break the skin. There's so many possibilities of scratching and creating a source of his blood to be able to be transferred onto you, to be cast off from that general area of where the fight is. So they'll be paying a lot of attention. They'll go back until they find that blood pattern within that blood pattern to identify that offender.
Interesting. So this will lead right into this little smart short segment.
Hands of a murder victim, and for good reason, because when people fight for their life, they will scratch and they will claw at their killer like their life depends on it. And it is honestly the very last thing that a victim can do to help the police catch the person that ultimately kills them. Because in that scratching frenzy, the killer's skin cells become embedded under the victim's nails. And if that victim happens to claw at the killer's clothing, fibers might also get lodged under those victims' fingernails. And so bagging the hands of a victim preserves that magical, precious evidence as those bodies head off to the office of the medical examiner for autopsy. And today, a report that is exactly what happened to these 4 kids and their bodies.
So they bagged up their hands, which is smart. It's amazing how, this forensics has evolved, and it used to be bag the hands for especially like gun residue, but this is the first time I've heard about bagging the hands for keeping the fingernails and what could be under that. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a process that you go in there, clip the nails, scrape the nails, fingerprint the victim, for the fact that you don't know of the victim's fingerprints if there's a history of them ever being fingerprinted before. But you have to fingerprint that victim in case they do recover a weapon or some article of that person. If he wears glasses and you find a set of glasses somewhere that has the victim's fingerprint on it, or a belt, or there's all different types of things that a person could have, such as a knife that may have a fingerprint on it, that you will be able to process at a future date. And if you don't have those fingerprints, and they take care of all that in the lab as they're processing the victims.
This is a good question, Tracy. DNA isn't good unless you have someone in the database, which is the CODIS database. Can they subpoena somebody's DNA?
They'll get search warrants for it, or they'll just
That's what I
go
was-
out and recover it from some type of, watch them go to
Garbage
a bar
can?
and drink out of a beer or drink out of a Coke can or go through the garbage. I mean, there's a lot of ways of getting DNA profiles. On BTK, I think they went and got a familial DNA off of a doctor's visit where they went and got a warrant for that. For one of the family.
Is that what they did? I should know that. I've watched just about everything I could on BTK. But yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Let's see. So let's see. Where should we jump over to? Well, we'll do some more questions since we're still talking on DNA, and then we're gonna watch that little clip because I kind of wanted to explain some things about the show, which was a truly an honor. But before we get into that, let's talk. Discuss a couple more things here. Let's see if there is more than one killer. Do you think that if there was more than one killer, would they use the same type of weapon? I'll finish the other question. I'm sorry, you're probably trying to read. I forgot I have two questions in there. But so, if there was two killers, would they use the same kind of weapon, or would one have a hammer and one have a knife?
It's possible, and I've also seen whereas, and I actually worked a homicide where a co-offender was given the opportunity to inflict injuries onto the victim, so that they became part of the crime. Whereas they would have to keep the secret, but they used the same weapon. There's someone that was in the household that was involved in the argument, and the primary offender said, okay, before we leave, you're going to be a part of this crime too. And therefore trying to guarantee their participation and them being able to not, being equal partners in the crime.
Right. If there was two killers and they were using the same weapons, besides DNA, would you be able to tell by the wounds? I mean, let's say, I guess if there was a female, would a male and a female, would there be more shallower stabs? I mean, I'm not saying a female can't stab just as good as a man can. Is there, let's say, just, a strong guy and a, not so strong guy. Do you think, is there anything to tell besides the DNA itself?
It's possible, but it'd be so hard to judge. And I mean, that's just going out there, I really don't know. You might be able to tell that, one of them is right-handed, one of them is left-handed.
Right.
Plus angle it may have come in, or certain injuries on one victim all coming downward, or injuries on another victim all being horizontal or upward. There's several different patterns that can happen, meaning that a certain individual holds a knife a certain way or attacks in a certain way, or has the knife, there's two different ways. You can either have the sharp edge up when you stab or the sharp edge down when you stab. Is that something that would be indicative between two different offenders? They'll look at that and say, oh, okay, this person here had one type of injury, the other one had a different type. And so, the depth of the blade, the width of the blade, if they're not identical knives, they're going to have different characteristics of those wounds.
Yeah, kind of just what said Loves Tina just said. One could stab one way, another could be stabbing. One could be a slasher, one could be a stabber. However you want to address it. One thing I found was interesting is that I guess you could tell that there's a guard or a hilt on a knife from this. I had to blur this out, but this is a stab. This is a cut, but this here is a bruise, and that is from the hilt or guard.
A guard that's up near the blade, and Well, some knives don't have those guards, and when you don't have those, that's where you really are susceptible that the offender will have injuries.
To themselves.
Yes, because after the blood is introduced onto that knife, and as it gets into the grip, that you will, your hand will slide, and that's where the offenders more often than not injure themselves.
So yeah, so versus a kitchen knife, this guy or person, killer or killers, definitely came prepared with something that's more of this kind of style. Whereas if they just went and grabbed a kitchen knife, which means this is a organized killer to some degree,
Yes.
and not a disorganized killer, which is yeah.
When you bring your own weapons, you know what you're there for, you know what you're going to do, you know what your goals are, and you've come prepared to accomplish those goals, which is more towards being organized.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay, so we covered that. Okay, let's go into. So if you haven't seen, I was on Badfield, and there's a reason why I'm going to kind of go into this, and I'm going to have something for my members because I have some backstage kind of footage for my members that I'm going to show. It was really interesting. I was having a nervous breakdown waiting to get on the show just because I've never been on never been on the news. I've had a couple opportunities to be on just the regular news, but never anything like national news. I thought it was a joke when I saw the email, and I thought it was a joke, to be honest with you. When I first saw the email, I thought, because we do get stuff like that all the time. We get weird emails. Thank you so much, Ellie Cap, for becoming a member. That sucks. It doesn't tell me what kind of member you're. StreamYard really needs to kind of update because you can't see the emojis or anything. I wish they would update their stuff. But thank you so much, Alley Cap, for supporting the channel. You are so awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and play that because it's going to lead into some experiments I'm going to be trying here real soon because I think this is interesting. So we'll go ahead and play my little 4 minutes of fame, I guess.
Of that car has online sleuths working overtime to try to track down answers. And one of those folks is Chris Hall. He's the host of the Mob Crew on YouTube. Hall was able to triangulate the time and the place that a video camera on Linda Lane, right there, pointing, that big arrow is pointing right to it, that video camera captured the White Elantra traveling just east of the murder scene. The owner of that footage confirmed to News Nation that the video shows a white or a light color car heading west. That's to the left of your screen on Taylor, and it's also towards the student's house because you would curve around and down to the bottom of your screen and up to the student's house there. So that all happened between 2:40.
And this is what, after we're done, this is what I want to talk about. Me and Steve were talking about this before the show. Really interesting. Makes me wonder about the source and if they might have more than one source and they're not saying. Or how sure are they that this is a White Hyundai Elantra? Like I said, I've got some interesting arguments.
45 and 3:15 a.m. He also confirmed police have seen that video. So they've got it. They know about it. And then Chris Hall zeroed in on another set of video cameras, the police body cam videos from a nearby underage drinking incident on a school field. The field is located along Taylor Avenue, and Chris Hall was able to see in the background of the police body cam that, yes, a car indeed drove right past those officers. Look at those headlights. That was 2:58 a.m. Now, of course, looking at it from here, it's really hard to tell what kind of car that is.
Now, just to give you guys some context, I didn't know what they were going to play. They said they were going to play some of my footage. I had a big live, and this was kind of like the main part of my live show. For those that might have missed my live show on Monday, I had a lot of other stuff too that I was talking about. I was talking about the other 3 cars that are caught on the whole thing was just breaking down the whole 20 minutes of the security footage and what, how many cars were seen and, so anyway, I wasn't really sure what they were going to, exactly what they were going to talk about. They told me they were going to send me some talking points, and they did that. I mean, they were awesome. I don't want to say anything bad. They just kind of sent me the talking points about maybe 45 minutes before the show started. And I already had kind of like my own thing written out of like what I was going to say and prepare for. And like half of what the talking points were not what I was, expecting. So anyway, moving on.
In the dark, right? But Chris was able to zero in on it and then overlay a white Hyundai, an Elantra, and overlay it onto the car in question. And when you see that happen, you can judge for yourself whether or not you think this is a good match.
And so I'm not sure this is White Hyundai Elantra, and I even tell her this in the show. Some people were kind of like, I've heard some backlash and people trying to debunk it. And it's like, I never said it was Elantra. I feel like it could be Elantra, and the time frame is, right there of this car driving by.
Whether this might be exactly the same car. Joining me now is Chris Hall himself. Chris, thanks for being on the program. So what was your reaction when you put two and two together and you ultimately put that overlay on top of the car that was speeding past the drinking incident?
Yeah, I was kind of excited. The fact that this car was driving at 258, which is from according to the December 16 document that says that this car was spotted between 245 and 315. And here comes this car driving by at 258. And it's hard to tell the color, but as it's passing by towards the end, you've got the headlights of the officer's car facing east, and you can kind of get an idea that it might be a white car or at least a light colored car. So it's a good possibility that may be the car because that is right in the middle of that time frame.
It does look like a light car, that's for sure. You actually were able to kind of assess the grille and the lights when you did the overlay. What was your assessment of that? Did they look like a match?
I can't say 100%. I'm no a car expert, but I would say it's pretty close.
And so I say it pretty close once, and then she asks me one more time. I'm going to fast forward because I'm going to play this whole thing. I'm going to save it for my members. But
down by the cyber community before the police were able to. So I understand there's a lot of crazy stuff out there as well. But what other stuff have you been able to sort of look at and give a second glance to?
Okay, so anyway, so like I said, we'll do a members only live, and we'll kind of break this down and how I had to change my shorts a couple of times when they weren't looking. And but it was so cool. It was really an honor, and just what a cool opportunity. I just wish I would have been able to prepare more and felt more comfortable about that car. But so we're going to talk about that car because I think it's kind of interesting of where they captured this car and how far away they actually captured this car. So that's kind of what I wanted to break down. So, but for our members, we'll break this down. I have some kind of some behind the scene footage as well. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and I'm going to go ahead and get to a couple of these real quick. Thank you so much, Esla, for the $20. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for the $20. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. If you're new to the channel, not only do we cover true crime, but we, especially me and Steve, we're going to be actually trying to go out and help some of these cases. Just like I said, right now it's winter, and we're kind of, at least I am kind of bogged down, but we do have plans. Tom says, super proud of you keeping your composure. National news would definitely make you freeze up, laugh out loud. Yes, I was freaking out. Mickey Duff, super sticker. Thank you so much, cute dog. Thank you so much for the $2.99. And love your humbleness, but she wanted you to say, there is no doubt in my mind, this is the car, laugh out loud. I know she did kind of, and I wouldn't do that. If you guys know me, I am a person that is not, I don't think I'm a know-it-all, and you don't get that from me. And if I make a mistake, as long as you're being polite, point it out, and I'll be happy to, address it, because it's a team effort. Thank you so much for the $5, but yeah, we all make mistakes, and But anyway, I've heard a lot of people that were trying to debunk that car and say that I was saying it was 100% that car, and I'm like, I'm not. I'm just really that live show is just me trying to address those 4 cars. Sorry, Steve. What are you here for? Just kidding. I'm just kidding,
No,
buddy.
hey, no, everyone has the right to have an opinion of what it is and to open up the minds and put the agenda out there, because we're bringing focus to it. And if your focus brings up the debate, is that the car or not, but it leads to the actual car, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So this is what, let's see, should we start with this one? Okay. So that car that we know about that came from this document that came out on December 16th for Fox News. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he says that they came and took the footage. He has a unit on Linda Lane, and they came the next day on November 14th. They took the footage from 2 a.m. to noon on Sunday, that 13th. And then he goes on to say that he can see that there's a white / light colored, which is kind of weird, car that's traveling west on Taylor Road. Let me zoom it in a little bit right here. That is seen sometime between 2:45 and 3:15. So I kind of went back, and there's something I kind of noticed. And so let's go, and we'll get back to that here in just a second. So this is the camera here that supposedly caught this car. And here is kind of the view looking down, because it supposedly caught this car going down Taylor Ave. Now, as you guys can see here, and I'll kind of zoom it in, but this right now from where we're standing, this is approximately 260 feet away. But from the building, it's actually, and we look on Google Earth, it's actually almost 330 feet away. And so I'm going to try to do a test where I'm going to try to film a car like driving just side, because I have a white car as well. It's an SUV, but I'm just curious to see what it'd look like 330 feet away. I've got to figure out what the specs are for that camera, but what it would look like to have a car just drive by for like a half a second, because it's not going to be in the camera for very long, as it's just seen going, through this way, and maybe 25 miles an hour, because it is residential. It's not going to be in the camera for very long. And at 330 feet away, what's your thoughts, Steve? I mean, do you think that this is the source or only source, or do you think there's another source?
I actually, that if it is this source, there is a possibility that the car came into that drive at some point, and this camera had a better look at it. Did it turn around at some point? But yes, I do believe that they have another source. Of course, you have the officers' body cams. Do we have a dash cam also? What other cameras are in the areas? What other residences that we don't know about, ring and other things? Because this here is we discussed it, 300 something feet in low light conditions. And we just finished up with a homicide in Delphi. We're at 60 something, 70 feet in broad daylight with a camera. They couldn't even get a good facial. But now we're trying to determine tail lights and headlights from a side view of pixelation of, if they did, that is an excellent camera system. I want one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess it could be zoomed in. Maybe this is, it's weird that this camera is set up where it's at. I mean, I guess this is definitely for who's coming in this road. I mean, the way it's angled at, let's just kind of look at Google Maps here. I mean, clearly this is probably just set up to see the cars coming and going here. So I'm going to go ahead and put us down on, let's see here. Ooh. Oh, no. What happened? Oh, wrong street. There we go. Wouldn't let me do it for a minute. So yeah, if we go up here, this is the camera right here. Clearly it is. It's, it's looking right down the road here to see who's coming in. But like I said, you're looking way back, and this is not even the full 300 feet. This is like 260 feet, and you're just gonna see, so that's why I want to try to kind of recreate what it looked like for 360 feet, or what was it? To look at it again. 330 feet away that this camera was from the right side of the Taylor Ave Road. So it's kind of far away. So so my two questions do they have a second source, which you kind of answered that you think there's a good possibility, or do you think they may have gotten the details wrong? But do you think they would put something like that out there, like saying, this is Elantra 2011 to 2013?
No, when you start, the truth is in the details. When you start, anytime, even in statements, when you're taking interviews, when you start making small detailed declarations, there's reasons for that. And they said 2011, 2013. They know something about that car that is indicative that that's the year model they're looking for. And they don't do that it's not smoke and mirrors. They basing that upon some strong evidence. And I believe it from a video or a picture or photograph, was there some kids out there that day or that night that, everybody lives in this age now that they have their phones out taking pictures. Did some kids by chance, as the car came by, take a picture and the car was in the background? I mean, there's so many possibilities.
Yeah, for sure. Kathleen McNally says, Chris, the gray house next door to the crime scene had a camera at front door that faced entry onto King Road. Gray house. Are we talking this one here? Or this blurred out one? That's green. So I'm assuming you're talking about this one here. Looks like a spotlight. You could be right. I wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me. Then that might be the source. And maybe they don't want to give away that official source. But yeah, I definitely see a floodlight. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a camera. I'm assuming this is the one you're talking about. Oh, that's right. It changes the date when you go forward. As a matter of fact, there's a camera right there. Except that's October 2007. Let's see. Or is that a light? No, that's a light. I'm sorry. The quality was so bad. I'm assuming that must be this one here you're talking, because that is kind of gray. And that was blurred out. Yeah, they blurred out a lot now. It used to be this, and I think you can still see this car. Then they blurred that out, and then they started blurring out the neighbors. So anyway, okay, so moving on. But yeah, just an interesting question, of because it just seems so far away for 330 feet away for them to know. Hyundai Elantra is I agree, Steve. There are several video sources that they are referring to. This narrows it down to the car. I mean, they seem pretty darn sure that the Hyundai Elantra is either has critical information, as we say. So before we continue, and we'll answer if you missed out on the car that was found in Eugene, we'll go ahead and answer that question here in just a second. But I'm going to go ahead and just plug my affiliate, which is Liquid IV, real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and play that, and then we'll come right back. Mob Crew, how would you like to feel better about what you put into your body? This all-new product called Liquid IV is taking hydration to the next level. Liquid IV's Hydration Multiplier is a great tasting daily electrolyte drink mix that utilizes the breakthrough science of cellular transport technology to deliver hydration to your bloodstream faster and more efficiently than water alone. Just add the non-GMO electrolyte powder to your water and let CTT do the rest. It comes in tons of different flavors like strawberry, grape, lemon, lime, and much more. Just add the powder to water and get the hydration your body deserves. They have powder for energy, hydration, and even one to help you sleep better. If you'd like to learn more or purchase some, go to this link down in the description of this video. And if you use the code THEMOBCREW during your checkout, you can save up to 20% on your next order. Hydrate now with Liquid IV. Thank you. Okay, and thank you, Liquid IV, for sponsoring today's video. They are amazing, and they're always having deals on, so sometimes you can actually get up to like 30% off. They're always got deals on. Amazing stuff. They got stuff to help you sleep, stuff for when you're sick, vitamin C. They've got it all. They're really growing. It's amazing. Gosh, and they sent me out tons of samples. I wish I could send some out. So let me remove that and come back. So let me quickly get this. That was a good question in here. You're welcome, Chris. Thank you so much, S-Lot, for the $20. You're so awesome. Thank you. And I thought I saw a question, but yes, thank you, S-Lot. That is so sweet. Yeah, a White Hyundai Elantra was in front of the school where Jack D family member works on. So I think if these, the hoodie guy and ex-boyfriend, if they had a Hyundai Elantra or knew somebody, I think they would probably be brought in. What do you think, Steve? I mean, as far as like these close possible persons of interest, I mean, if they were associated with the Hyundai Elantra, you think they would be kind of brought in?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have when they bring these persons in, of course, there may be some voluntary, they're going to have standard canvassing questions they're going to be asking. Of course, including alibis certain times, checking their bodies for certain types of injuries, asking to obtain DNA voluntary, maybe even hair samples. And they're just going to, do everything. And when they do these interviews with these different persons of interest when they come in, and of course, it'll be videotape. Video will be analyzed by certain individuals with certain skill sets that will determine how truthful they are. And even the interviewers will have certain training in those areas. So there's a lot to be done by law enforcement as they look at these people. And they may have already developed a person of interest or a suspect. And that's how come they were able to step away from some of these other people currently. That this is our guy, and we're, or this is the vehicle we're looking for. And certain people may not have access to that type of vehicle. Right.
Alley Cat says, I will be joining True Crime Web as well. Yeah, you should. He's an amazing guy. I learned so much from him. And we're going to try to have him on at least once a week, during regular, and the holidays are coming up. Not sure about that. But for the most part, we're going to try to have him on at least once a week. Love working with him. Love having him on.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, likewise. So just to recap, if you didn't hear already, because a lot of people were turning this car in. This car is not related. This was found in Eugene, Oregon. It was abandoned, and it looks like some kind of, and personally, in my opinion, it looked like some kind of DUI situation and a hit and run, and somebody just ditched it. But they did address it, I think, late. As a matter of fact, in the episode that I was in with Banfield, I think they officially addressed it, that this had nothing to do with the um, Idaho students, but and I think they found someone sleeping in it, which was interesting. I don't know if there was somebody in it at this time, but I heard somebody was sleeping in it. So that car is not related. So a couple more things here. So this is what I think is interesting. When you really look at this overview of this neighborhood, so you got the car coming in, but if the car caught the white car heading west on Taylor, but they didn't mention it was seen leaving east on Taylor, could that mean that it left via Walnutta Drive, which is like a maze coming out? I mean, if you look at that, I mean, it looks like a maze. So does that indicate that this killer or killers knows this neighborhood? Because one, you're coming into a dead end. Like who, I understand if there was a rural area where there's a house that, at the corner and, the neighbors are not close by and they, attack that house, but they're going into a dead end area. And then they've got this neighborhood, which they could have possibly came out and it's an absolute maze. What's your thoughts on that, Steve? That's just the area.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem that you would have to have a certain familiarity if you could drive it in and out and never use any of these map apps that are out there. And it also that if you're not, and you did use a mapping app, and will law enforcement obtain that data and see who was there at certain times? Because, these smartphones, some of these cars, and even the cars that have certain radio systems in them now, they track them. And how much data does law enforcement have from every possibility that can track some of the digital signals that come from not only your devices, but from your vehicles, and which I'm sure they're going to try to gain access to that data.
Yeah, so as a matter of fact, Banfield had somebody on not too long ago, and they were talking about, because if they know it's somewhere between 2011 2013, that they started putting the GPS systems in around 2006. So it's a great possibility that this thing has GPS in it and can be tracked where it had been, and so that's great that they can kind of have that if hopefully they find this car. But
yeah, I looked up the specs on the 2011 to 2013, and the radio system in it, activated or not, does and is trackable.
Right.
Regardless if you activated that for use by the driver. And now how often and how, and is that information available? We don't know yet, but hopefully it is.
Interesting. Yeah. Now they need, hopefully get some kind of beat on the license plate or something. But I would think if this car is related, if it's a killer, he's gonna probably take it to a chop shop, garage,
drive it into a lake or burn it.
Yeah, that too. Unfortunately, but there's one more thing that I want to ask you about and get your opinion on here. And then we'll see if we can answer a few questions before we go here. And I appreciate everybody tuning in. So here is kind of a look at, so here is where the student's home is. Here's Moscow. They were getting some camera surveillance over in Troy. Now this makes sense because this is Highway 8. So I completely understand trying to get footage from east to west. And even if they were getting surveillance from north to south on Highway 95. But the fact that they're down in Kendrick getting surveillance, what does that tell you? What do you think? What do you make of that?
If you're doing a crime with all the modern technologies and all the camera systems out there, just like the station that the other car was seen, or there was a similar white car seen, that along the track from 3 o'clock to daylight, that they will be able to track this vehicle along these major roads and these intersections, service stations, ring phones, neighborhoods. And being that far away and still gathering camera evidence, that is a good sign that they have something.
I would think so. Like I said, I completely understand, that they're going to get surveillance from the nearest highway going east and west, north and south. But the fact that they're got a kind of a, southeast here makes me wonder if this is, where the killer either came from, or I would see maybe where were heading after they left.
Yeah, I mean, you got traffic cameras, red light cameras. You even have law enforcement vehicles that identify with certain tag systems that are in the law enforcement vehicles now. And it's almost impossible to drive any length of time and not expose yourself to some of this technology.
Right. Let's see. Did I get Mickey Duff? I missed your thing. There it is. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Oh, I love that dog. That's so cute. Thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting the channel. And if you got a question, if you can, try to put it in the comments now, and we'll see if we can get to. I don't know if we can get to all of them, but if you have a question for Steve or me, put it in the comment. We'll see if we can answer a couple before we go here. I hope you both hit 1 million subs. Appreciate the work you guys do. Thank you, Tom, man. Quick little story. And I was going to save some of this for the members only live, but I just want to say that when I got that email saying that they wanted me to come on the Tonight or the News Nation, I literally had an email saying that no, thank you, but you can use my footage if you want. Because I was just, to be honest, I'm nervous, scared. I was like, I don't think I can do this. But I text Tom. He said, "You got this, buddy. You got this." And so if it wasn't for Tom, I probably would not have been on News Nation. So thank you, Tom, buddy. I literally had the email written out. Like I almost hit send, saying like, "Sorry, I'm good." So that's really cool.
Yes, thank you, Tom. That was some great advice.
Yeah. We did okay. We did okay. Like I said, coming from school, I was a shy kid. I love video editing. I never thought I'd be doing live shows like this. It's crazy, but I could have done it without the community. Like I said, like if I had, a very judgmental community, there's no way I'd be able to do this. You guys are so amazing and so supportive. Eugene is a big university town. Oh, in Eugene, Oregon? Interesting. Maybe that's, and I heard one of them had some, I don't know if it was Maddie or Kaylee, had some kind of connection to Eugene as well. I'll have to look into that. I think that was also kind of why they were interested in that car.
Yeah, I think one of them was News Nation said one of them was born there or something.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Or as a child spent time there.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you so much, S-Lot, again for the $20. That's so awesome. So if you got a question, let's see if we can knock a couple out before we go. We usually try to, if you're new to the channel, we usually try to go for 1.5 hours. That way, it's easy for the replayers. People rewatch it. It's not too long. That's a good question. High Strung Deb says, how long do they keep a crime scene open to investigate it?
Wow. I've seen, now there's sometimes that I think it was the McDonald Fort Bragg murders that they sealed that house up for years. So it can go from one day to years. This one has been sealed up for what, over a month now?
5 weeks. Yeah, we're a little over 5 weeks. Yep.
And so the longer you can keep it sealed up and the depth that you can take that investigation, as I keep saying time and time again, this individual entered this house, committed this crime. He fought multiple victims. We know he fought at least one, for the fact that law enforcement and family has indicated such that they were able to had defensive wounds. And so his DNA is in that house or on those victims. They have it. It's finding it that is the key. And have they found it? I'm hoping so.
Interesting. What about the guy recently arrested that was following his wife around the house with a knife and hit her and her daughter and then cut himself? Yeah, that was James Leonard, something like that. Yeah, it's not related, but what's interesting is the coroner that is the coroner for the students has a law firm, and she's actually defending that guy. But yeah, it is not related. But a weird guy. He's actually a convicted killer as well. Hi, Steve. In other crimes where knives have been used, sometimes the knife breaks when it hits the bone. Could that be a possibility in this case? Would that provide any clues?
Anything possible. As I said, that some people said the K-bar has a tendency for the tip to break off. I don't know. I haven't experimented with it, but I will experiment with it. But there's a lot of different knives out there, and if the tip did break off, then yes, it would limit its capabilities. But you know, if it's one of these knives meant for combat or for survival or some of the tactical knives, they're usually extremely heavy bladed, and they generally won't break off unless you get them wedged between two extremely hard surfaces.
Okay, now Steve won't give out any names, but he says, Digging Deep says, I'd love to hear the guest theory on who he thinks did this.
Yeah, no, I never lead for the fact that with my, I don't ever want to taint the possibility that there is a person out there that knows the offender, and they may not know everything, but they have strong suspicion. And I don't, from my background, want to influence anyone that I think it's so-and-so or something. And possibly they say, well, Steve says it's not. And so therefore it's not. And so I just don't ever share my POIs.
Yeah, he never gets into them, but I think at the very least you could say that you feel like this guy knows the victims. You could at least say
Oh,
that.
absolutely. There's a relationship. Now how well the victims knew him may be different, but when you go into a residence, how long before you targeted him? Did he target them a day before, a week before, a month before, or 10 minutes before? But they were targeted. And of course, the shorter the time, the less he knew. But I think that with the background and history we've heard on this residence and the location, we're talking about a house that's on a secondary street. It's not on a primary street. It's not near a shopping center or near a corner store. It's a house in the middle of thousands of houses. And for that one residence to be focused on, there's a reason for it and be targeted. And so I think there is within the orbit of the offender that they'll track it down.
Okay, Zap, I'm going to answer your question next. Could they be wearing night vision like used hunting?
Are you going to answer that, Chris, or me?
Oh, you go ahead, buddy.
Talking about that type, then of course you're going into a whole new, and we won't know from the profile of the offender comes from the crime scene. We have no information from inside the crime scene other than what everyone believes is the type of weapon used. If you get into where night vision and other things, that's a whole different type of serial killer offense that you would have to base that on. Is there some evidence that is in there in the residence? We don't have those details. And, of course, right now, everybody can speculate about so many things, but that would be a totally different type of offender. and we don't have anything to base that profile on that's true.
Yeah. To Steve, do you think that they think the suspect is very local and that's the reason they are guarding the crime scene?
Very possible, and good reasoning there.
Yeah.
That, yes, we have to get there to protect that residence because we don't want the residents to suffer any damage, harm, or the offender come back and try to burn it down or something. That he knows he injured himself and his blood profile's in that house, and he has to destroy it. And so law enforcement has to protect it as long as possible.
Yeah. ZP Zap. So yeah, the altercation at the corner club. So may not be what you think. So Joe, I'm gonna say his full name, but it's not hard to find. But there's the hoodie guy and the tan hat guy. And the tan hat guy came forward. His first name's Joe. He kind of talked about that he was at the corner club bar and he ran into the hoodie guy and Maddie and Kaylee. Apparently Maddie had bumped Maddie because she'd been drinking quite a bit and she bumped into tan hat guy and his response is ew. And anyway, so during the grub truck video, you'll notice that there's kind of a thing where she points and says F you, and he puts his hand out just before that. I've made a video. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I basically describe what's going on in the context of that. So that's kind of the altercation. It's nothing like huge, but, apparently Maddie bumped into this guy and he, his reaction is ew for whatever, I'm not going to judge, it's so. Miss Steve is going to hide all the knives. Laugh out loud.
Yeah. I broke during some of my testing on that I did on another case. I broke some of her kitchen knives.
Yeah. Jamie, please. Yeah, I don't want to pull up your comment. Nothing's wrong with it, but yeah, there was a girl that had taken her life. I don't think it's related, and I think, as a matter of fact, I think the father even addressed it recently too. The father of Hannah. I'm not going to get into it because I really don't want, I understand that. I mean, everybody's looking at all different possibilities, and there was kind of like they thought maybe a Mean Girls situation, and it went too far. But I really don't want to. Thank you, Brian Hoffman. Yeah, I forgot to answer that one question. I've already kind of answered it, but yeah, that car found in Eugene, it's not related at all. Tom N, was there ever any relation? Oh, being an ex-roommate. Was there any relation to Hannah Claire being an ex-roommate? I haven't looked too much further into it after the father addressed. It's not a bad theory, but yeah, I wish just out of respect of what's been going on, I'd rather not talk about it. Off air, I would talk about it, but I don't think, like I said, the father's addressed it. But thank you so much for the $5. I should have read that before I popped it up. But the father did come out saying that this was just a thing here. So let's see. Let's see, what time is it? 7:30. All right. Just a theory. Could there something happen at the bar other than the interaction with Joe? Then Adam was told him everything, so Jack has escorted them. Maybe. I mean, it's tough to say what happened at the bar. There's just so many theories to go down that road. And there's nothing wrong with looking into that stuff as long as you do it responsibly. Just because of what's happened recently, I'm trying to be responsible, not to go dive into these people's lives because I don't want to get anybody like enraged and tunnel vision and start like harassing them. Not saying that you guys would do it, but there are people that, kind of, we just don't want people harassed. That's the only thing. There's it's a double-edged sword when it comes to web sleuthing. Is there's some really good things that come out of it, and then the bad of it is that there's people that go to these people's social media. It's one thing to kind of like dig into their their history, but when you actually start emailing them and threatening them, that's where it loses the whole web sleuthing. Gets a bad name, and so we really try to be careful with that on this channel. So so I think with that said, I think we're going to go ahead and end it. So just a few updates. We're going to do a special members only live where I'm going to show some some behind the scenes with the Banfield thing, and we'll watch the whole episode and have a little bit of fun with that. Steve, final thoughts with this case? Anything that you would like to add on to this?
Oh, I think that law enforcement seems confident in their quest, and they have good control of the crime scene. And I believe they're using the proper personnel and techniques, and they're going to gather every bit of evidence that they can in that house. In law enforcement, you have to be always be the eternal optimist that good things are going to happen, and that these victims deserve justice, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, no, I know you're not accusing anyone. No, you're fine, Sama. I just, like I said, I'm just saying in general that, on this channel, I try to be careful with the speculation, just because of, especially after they addressed it with Moscow, where they were saying, they're going to be pressing criminal charges on certain things. And so it's kind of deterred me to really talk about the ex-boyfriend or the hoodie guy much more than just basic details about him. There is nothing wrong about looking into that stuff and discussing and sharing your, there's nothing wrong with speculation at all. I just, like I said, it's tough right now. It sucks that people do that, harass people, because then it kind of deters me to really, go down that road. It's so hard to, it's tough. But yeah, no worries. Does Harsh know too much about weapon or talking? Does Harsh know too much about weapon or talking BS? I don't know. Harsh know too much about weapon or talking. I don't know about the weapon thing. I know he talked about a screen. I'll have to see. I know he put out a video where he was cooking and had some cooking utensils. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. And then the talking BS. I don't know. I know he has, because there's stuff that it's on 4chan. I don't know if you're talking about 4chan and Reddit and stuff like that, or maybe a Facebook group. Some of that stuff, you always have to take that stuff with a grain of salt. So I don't know. But Harsh is the neighbor, and he's the one that supposedly heard the scream at 4 a.m., which I think is interesting, because that would, if that is true, that kind of adds the timeline, or it puts it closer to 4 a.m. as the attack, because they have it between 3 and 4. But if he went to bed at 4 and then heard a scream around that time, that definitely kind of narrows that timeline of when the attack happened. But as far as the weapon, I'm not sure about what you're talking about. So I think we're going to go ahead and end it there. I appreciate everybody's support. And tomorrow is Thursday. I don't know if I'll be live tomorrow. I think I'm going to probably do my members live tomorrow and then do a show Friday or something like And you've got a
What
show
time is your
tomorrow.
show? What time you doing your members tomorrow?
It'll probably be after your show. What will you be covering?
I believe we're going to be doing Richard Allen and we do our show 8 o'clock Eastern. Richard Allen is the perpetrator of the that's been charged with 2 counts of murder in Delphi.
Yep. Yeah, I think I might do a Delphi show too. It's been a while. So, but I really appreciate. Always enjoy the show. Thank you so much, Chrissy. Like I said, thank you guys so much. Oh, interview. Okay, so he says you need to watch the interview on you. Oh, so it's on YouTube. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I know he did like a little cooking video or something where he was dicing up some stuff. That's the last video I've seen of his. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, he's the neighbor to the east that heard some kind of scream. So anyway, so yeah, Steve, you're going to be covering that tomorrow at what time again? 8
o'clock Eastern.
8 o'clock Eastern. Okay.
And for all your community guys, I want to thank y'all for having me tonight, and everybody have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see y'all soon.
All right, buddy. I'll put you backstage real quick. So yeah, if you want to subscribe to his channel, it's True Crime Web. We're going to try to have him on at least once a week. And like I said, since it's winter, we're kind of bogged down, but we do more than just cover crime. We're actually going to try to go out. If you're familiar with Dylan Rounds, I was out there trying to find that poor kid, and we still have some unfinished business. And Steve's going to hopefully maybe come help me as well. And we've got some ideas, and then hopefully can finish Dylan Rounds and move on to the next case. And then he's got his own cases he's working on. So we do more than just cover. So, and then of course I always try to help out with the missing. So if you have any family members or friends that recently went missing and they need the exposure, you can email me the details. And if I can, I will definitely try to feature them in an upcoming live show. So I just want to say thank you so much to the mods for all your hard work. Thank you to everybody in the chat for being respectful. Happy holidays. Let's hope they find this. Let's hope this family gets justice for the students real soon. And we'll be live. I think we're going to try to go with the members only live tomorrow and show the Banfield and a little bit behind the scenes, because I've got a couple of stories to tell, especially about Brian Enton. I actually got to hear him behind the scenes, and he's kind of funny. So that's pretty cool. So with that said, I'm going to play the pet outro, and we will see the members tomorrow, and we'll probably see you guys Friday or Saturday. So happy holidays. Take care. Love you guys.